Hi everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today we are making this beautiful A-line dress step-by-step tutorial. For this dressmaking, I am going to use my paid pattern paper. In my previous video, I have shown how to make A-line dress with a bow at the chest line. Today we are making this version of this A-line dress with the same pattern paper. I am going to be showing 3 different kinds of A-line dress that you can make with this pattern paper. Please support us by purchasing the pattern paper and you will love making these dresses. The pattern paper is easy to put together, and if you purchase the pattern paper, I will also make a video on how to join the pattern paper step by step. Continue to share our video and like the video so that we can get more traction on YouTube. So let's jump right to this tutorial. First thing that you're going to do, you grab your A-line paid pattern paper. You are going to decide the age of the dress that you are making. This pattern paper is from 1 year to 8 years. So I have already cut out the age that I'm going to make for today. So the age that I cut for today is for 4 to 5 years old child. What we are going to do, we are going to pin our pattern paper on our fabric. I am using this fabric. It's a very beautiful fabric and it's a cotton fabric, and I'm also using this turquoise blue to design the dress that we are making today. You can see that my fabric, the flower inside has a turquoise blue, so that is why I'm using this turquoise blue to design the dress. If you have a fabric that has a different color inside, you can decide to pick any color of your choice and use that color and cut out the fabric to design your dress. This dress that we are making today, we are going to line in the dress. So what I'm going to do, I am going to pin my pattern paper on my fabric. First thing that you're going to do, you pick this part of the pattern. This is the front. You're going to place it on your fabric. When you are placing it on your fabric, make sure that you fold your fabric into 2. My fabric is folded into 2 right here. And then I will take my pin and I will pin it all around, and I will take my scissors and cut it out. You are going to be cutting 2 pieces for this fabric. Don't place your pattern paper on fold. You can see the way I placed my pattern paper. That is how you should place your pattern paper when cutting this part out on your fabric. The next pattern that you're going to cut, you are going to cut the front pattern. You are going to place it on fold. You can see that I fold my fabric into 2, place it on fold like this, and you take your pin, you pin it all around, and you take your scissors, you cut it out. The next pattern that you are going to cut, you are going to cut the back pattern. I fold my fabric into 2 like this, and you place your pattern paper on your fabric like this. You're going to cut 2 pieces for the back pattern. What you are going to do, you use your pin. You pin your pattern paper on your fabric. Once you have done pinning, you take your scissors, you cut it out. The next pattern that you're going to cut, you are going to cut the front inserted pleat, and you are also going to cut the chest placket. So what you are going to do, place it on your fabric like this. You're cutting 1 pieces for this fabric. You're also cutting 1 pieces for this fabric. What you are going to do, you take your pin it all around, and take your scissors and cut it out. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to cut out your lining. This is my back pattern and this is my front pattern. Before you cut out your lining, from the hem, you are going to take a measurement. So I have already taken my measurement from this to this line right here is 4 centimeters. Once you take that measurement, connect the mark together. So this is where my 4 centimeters is right here. So I'm folding this part inside. Once you fold it inside, you place your front pattern. Make sure that your front pattern is going to be on fold. You place it like this and you take your pin, you pin it all around, and you take your scissors, you cut it out. And you come to the back pattern, you're going to repeat the same process. From this bottom of the pattern, you measure inside 4 centimeters. Connect the mark together. This is it. I have connected mine, and this is my 4 centimeters. And I'm going to place my back pattern on my fabric. You are going to cut 2 pieces for the back. You place it like this. You take your pin, you pin it all around, and then you take your scissors, you cut it out. The purpose why I measure inside 4 centimeters, I want my lining to be shorter than my made fabric. So make sure you do the same. If you don't want your lining to be shorter than your made fabric, you can just leave it the way it is and place your pattern paper on your fabric like this and cut it out. So I will pin mine on my fabric and I will go ahead and cut it out. First thing that you have to do, you take the front. This is the front that we cut out 2 pieces. This is the center front and this is the side seam. And this is the inserted that I cut out a different fabric. What you are going to do, take it to your ironing board. Make sure you iron interfacing on the fabric. Once you have done iron interfacing on the fabric, fold it into 2 and give it a good press so that you have a center crease for the fabric. What we are going to do, we are going to pin it on our fabric like this. So make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. I am going to pin it all the way down. I have pinned it all the way down. The next thing that you have to do, you pick your fabric like this, place it on this other side. You go ahead and pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done that, you take the chest plate, you just fold it into 2 like this. Take it to your sewing machine and top stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once you have done stitching, turn it inside out. Take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. The next thing that you have to do, you take your lining. So we are going to put our lining together. You open the front lining like this and then you pick the back pieces. You are going to put the bow shoulder seam together. Put them together like this. Take it to your sewing machine and stitch the shoulder seam with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Then you come down to this other side, stitch the shoulder seam with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once you have done stitching, take it to an ironing board and press the seam apart. I have given it a top stitch. This is how it is. I take it to my overlocker, I overlock the raw edges. I push the seam towards the made fabric and I give it a good press. This is how it looks right now. And I've also stitched my chest split together. I push the seam in between the fabric and I take it to my ironing board. I give it a good press. And I've also stitched the shoulder seam of my lining together. I press the seam apart. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to top stitch. You take it to your sewing machine, you go ahead and top stitch all the way down. And you come down to this other side, you take it to your sewing machine and top stitch all the way down. Have stitched it together. This is how it is. Once you have done stitching, take it to an ironing board. You fold this side into the center crease. And you fold this other side into the center crease and you make sure that you give it a nice good press. This is how it will look. You can see how that is really beautiful. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to top stitch this part together. I'm just going to place a pin right here to secure the fabric together like this. Take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. Once you have done stitching, you take your front top, put them together like this. Make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. You are going to top stitch. You pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. Once you have done stitching, take it to your overlocker, overlock the raw edges. Make sure that you stitch this part together first before placing your top on top of it and stitch it together all over again. I have given it a top stitch. This is how it is. I take it to my overlocker, overlock the raw edges. I press the seam towards the top bodies and I give it a good press. This is how it is once you have done that. Once you put them together, the next thing that we are going to cut out the excess of the placket. If you are making this dress, if there is excess on the placket, do not panic. That is how I make the pattern paper. Once you put the placket together and you stitch it everything properly, the next thing is for you to take your scissors. You just go ahead and cut out the excess. Once you have done that, the next thing that we are going to place our chest placket right here. You place it like this. You go ahead and pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. When you are stitching, you are going to stitch on both sides of the fabric. You stitch it all the way down and you come down to this other side, you stitch it all the way down. Once you have done stitching, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. Once you have done pressing your placket together, you cut out the excess of the fabric. I have stitched it together. This is how it is. I take it to my ironing board, I give it a good press and I trim out the excess. When you place a different fabric at the chest line of your dress, make sure that you are using a matching thread to make the dress look more beautiful. The next thing that we have to do, we take the back of our dress. So this is the back pieces. What you are going to do, take it to your ironing board, iron interfacing at the center back of your dress, which I have done that. You also repeat the same process on the second pieces. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to put the both shoulder seam of your dress together. Put them together, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done stitching, press the seam apart. I have stitched the shoulder seam of my dress and I take it to my ironing board. I press the seam apart. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to place our lining on top of our made fabric. All you have to do, you place your lining on top of your made fabric like this. When you are putting them together, make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. What you are going to do, you are going to stitch the both armhole and neckline. Once you have done stitching, take your scissors, snip around the curved area and also repeat the same thing with the neckline. I have top stitch around the both armhole and neckline. This is how it is. I turn my dress inside out and I take it to my ironing board. I give it a good press. This is how it looks once you have done that. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to put the side seam of our dress together. You put them together like this, made fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You go ahead and top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter and you come down to this other side, you repeat the same thing. Made fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You put them together properly. Make sure you pin them together. Take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done stitching, take it to your overlocker and overlock the both raw edges. I have stitched the side seam of my dress. I turn it inside out, give it a good press. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch the center back. Before you stitch the center back, take your dress to your ironing board. The lining, you fold inside 1 centimeter. You fold it again 1.5 centimeter. Make sure you give it a good press. Also repeat the same process with your made fabric. All you have to do, you turn your dress like this. This will be the center back of our dress. You are going to pin it all the way down. I have pinned the both center back together. This is how it is. Before you take it to your sewing machine and top stitch, when you are stitching, you can see that when I hem my lining, I fold it inside. Make sure you fold it inside and take your pin and you use it to secure that together. You can see how that is and you run a straight stitch all the way down. You come down to this other side, you repeat the same process, pinning all the way down. When you get to the hem of the lining, fold it inside just the way I fold it inside like this. Take your pin to secure that and take it to your sewing machine and run a straight stitch. Once you have done stitching, take it to your overlocker, overlock the both raw edges. Once you have done that, you use the opportunity to hem your dress. Fold it inside 1 centimeter, fold it again 1.5 centimeter, and top stitch all around. Once you have done with that, use the opportunity to stitch your buttonhole or install snap closure. I will show you the final look of my dressmaking. This is the final look of my dressmaking. I have hemmed my dress and I've also hemmed the lining. This is how it is once you have done hemming yours. And this is how the front of the dress will look. And this is the center back of the dress. I have not installed my snap closure yet. I will install my snap closure later on. This is how the dress will look once you have done making your dress. Please subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends and loved ones. Purchase our pattern paper. It is affordable and you will love making different kinds of A-line dress from this pattern. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.